Hi, I'm Desmond Child, and I'm on the Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn. As you just heard, I am super excited to have with me legendary songwriter Desmond Child. He'll talk all about the songwriting process with Kiss, Aerosmith, Bon Jovi, Alice Cooper, pop stars like Ricky Martin, Katy Perry, and so much more. This is a great episode loaded with tons of information about songs that is the jukebox to our life. Desmond will also dig deep into the Kiss catalog, talking a little bit about the song Sword and Stone. Desmond will also share with us what was one of his favorite songs he wrote. I think that answer might surprise you. As well as a song that he felt didn't quite turn out the way he had hoped. You guys are going to really enjoy this episode. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. Now, let's jump in and get started with my conversation with the one, the only, Mr. Desmond Child. Desmond, welcome to the show. I have to say, you have been the soundtrack of my teenage life and beyond, so I'm so honored to have you with me on the show today. Thank you for joining me.
Well, I thought I'd be the jukebox of your life.
Well, you know, you're probably that as well. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I've always been big into looking at line.
I'm going to go with that. You know, the jukebox of my life.
Yes.
You know, rather than the soundtrack of my life.
The jukebox of my life. I'll go with that. Absolutely.
Like that.
Absolutely. I like that also. But before we even jump into the music stuff, I know you're a big family guy, your husband, you have 2 kids. I just like to ask, is everybody okay and doing well during these crazy times?
We're doing great. We're blessed because, you know, we live in the country in Nashville, and, you know, it's a beautiful place. And so we can easily go outside and breathe fresh air.
Nice.
Now we're in New York City, and my kids are getting ready to go to school here. So we've been quarantined for 2 weeks, you know, pent up in this apartment. But tomorrow's our last day of quarantine. So
nice.
We're going to step out and go to Central Park and take a walk.
Excellent. Good. I'm happy to hear that. And I'm happy to hear everybody is doing safe and doing well. You know, during these kind of crazy times, do you find it maybe easier or more difficult as a songwriter to draw on inspiration to write songs? How is that for you?
Well, I haven't really been writing songs per se during these times, even though for many years I've been Skyping with people to finish songs. Usually we start them and then they go off to wherever they're from, and it's easy to get on, and then you forget you're even on Skype. You're just right there with the person.
Absolutely.
Like I'm right here with you and me.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But now, didn't you just have a song come out like this week? Viva La Diva, I think it is.
Yes. I met Countess Luann from the Real Housewives of New York City up at Sirius Radio. It wasn't even a year ago. And I was up there doing promotion for my live album, Desmond Child Live, on BMG Rights. And I heard that she was there. And, you know, the Housewives of New York City, that's like a kind of a secret pleasure. You don't tell anybody you watch that show. You just do it. And I just have always loved the Countess Luann, and she's up close, so beautiful, and she's so warm, and she's such a great person. She's a great comedian. And so the persona she presents on TV isn't quite really how she is.
Sure.
You know, which I was so surprised. I mean, she's a real mensch, and I love her. And so when we got together, I looked at her and I said, oh, wow, you know, let's do a song together. So I went to Carol Bayer Sager, the mega hit maker, Oscar-winning Carol Bayer Sager, and the Barbara Whisperer, Jay Landers, who's been A&Ring Barbara Streisand records for, you know, it's like he's going into like his 34th album with her. It's probably even more than that. And he's also a songwriter, incredible lyricist. And he's especially good at parodies. I don't know if you've ever heard these parodies that Barbara does where she goes, so crazy with like Send in the Clowns, but she changes the lyrics.
Okay, yeah.
Like who is this clown? You know what I mean.
Right, absolutely. Absolutely.
And Jay does a lot of those lyrics. And because I just thought, Countess Luann, she's like so full of life and she's so campy. And the whole thing is so much fun that we wrote her this song called Viva la Diva. And we were able to get the vocal done just right before COVID.
Oh, nice.
And so then she went to Studio 54 underneath. It's called 54 Below.
Okay.
And it's a great nightclub in the basement of what was Studio 54 back in the day. And she went in there with a skeleton crew and made this amazing video. And I had performed there 2 years ago. So they took videos of me in the same room, on the same stage, the same piano, and then kind of cut them into her video.
Nice.
So with the magic of,
editing,
television, and stretching and all that, it made me look good. And, so we made the video and it's really fun. And the single actually comes out, well, it came out last Friday.
Right.
And the episode that I'm in, teaching her the song and the whole story of Viva la Diva, is going to be the finale of the Real Housewives of New York City. And that's going to be on September 3rd.
Nice. Okay.
So everybody tune in or tape it and then secretly watch it. And it's the finale, though. I'm like so honored.
That is awesome.
And so, we did that. And I've been getting ready for another release in October, which is the remastered Desmond Child and Rouge albums.
Oh, nice.
Desmond Child and Rouge, our self-titled album, and Runners in the Night.
Nice.
And so we've been putting together the whole promotion plan. And it's been a lot of fun. And we have a new website, www.desmondchildandrouge.com. And we're going to be doing the socials and everything. And the wonderful thing is that to be in the world of Desmond Child and Rouge, you have to time travel back. Like our bios in the website don't go past, 1979.
That's so cool.
No,
that's so cool.
That was like before, nothing after, like we are there in 1979.
Awesome. And when are those coming out?
That's coming out October 9th.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
And it's a double set. You can buy them separately. It's the two albums, Desmond Child and Rouge and Desmond Child and Rouge, Runners in the Night. And they are very different albums stylistically that were released within 6 months of each other. And in between, we did a national tour, and Rouge did the live show with Gilda Radner on Broadway called Gilda Live that was filmed by Mike Nichols. The stage show was directed by Lorne Michaels, and then Mike Nichols filmed it as a documentary. Okay. So you can watch that and you can see Rouge back there, singing, girl group stuff and playing Bulgarian, dancers and all these get-ups that they put them in. And then at the end of that year, we were the musical guests on Saturday Night Live. Right. Thanks to, our connection with John Belushi and Gilda Radner. And Ted Knight was the host that Christmas. It was the Christmas show of 1979. And so, we had an incredible, explosive year. It was like too explosive. Right. Because we were young and we didn't really know what we were doing. And of course, everybody talked in our ear, that was saying, like, you don't need them. Right. You could be a star on your own. Sure. What do you need them for? But actually, we did need each other, and we had something special. If you look at our website, you can see how special we were. I mean, we were like Prince and Madonna and the Scissor Sisters, 10 years before.
10 years, right?
And
Absolutely.
we also had elements that were like what later on I did with Ricky Martin, the Latin sound, and with Bon Jovi. And because at that time, I worked with Paul Stanley of Kiss. He was a fan of ours, and he asked me to co-write a song with him. And that song turned out to be I Was Made for Lovin' You. And so captured a little bit of what we were doing, because we were doing rock to dance beats on stage.
Right.
And so, Gene thought he was crazy. Always has hated the song. And, but they did the song in a movie called Why Him?
Yep.
And they all through the movie, right? He didn't hate it that much.
No, not at all.
Singing it like crazy.
Right, absolutely. And I'm sure he didn't hate the paychecks.
Yeah. The paycheck was big, and the hate was a little less.
Right. Now, you know what? I have to ask you something about Gene, right? Because over the years, Kiss fans have heard the comments like, keep Desmond Child away from the studio, blah, blah, blah. But more recently, you've said that he's actually a friend and a mentor now to you, it sounds like, right? So how did that turn? Yeah. When did that turn?
Well, they did an album called The Elder.
Yes.
And they worked with Bob Ezrin, who's a very dear, close friend of mine. But we hadn't met each other yet, because later on I produced, or maybe it was before, I had produced Alice Cooper's album Trash, and he had worked with Alice Cooper. So we had met in London with Bryan Adams, and we made close friends. And in fact, he moved to Nashville for a while, and he moved in with us because he couldn't find a place. And he was with us for 6 months. So that was pretty cool. My kids were maybe like 8 years old or less. And, Uncle Bob was living with us in the house, bought them their first drum set.
Wow.
Guitars. It was fantastic. So they made an album called The Elder. And, because at that time, I was working with Bon Jovi and with Aerosmith and with Alice Cooper, Joan Jett, Rat. And so I think that I was bringing kind of a pop influence into those records, and my songs ended up being songs, the songs that I co-wrote with them were like singles that were successful.
Absolutely.
And so at that time, I think they were going through, this kind of identity crisis where they had taken off their makeup. And, and they were saying, maybe what we need to do is the opposite of everyone else and not co-write with anyone. So as a kind of gag or whatever, he was going around, he did like 200 interviews all over the world where he said, we had to put guards in front of the doors of the studio to keep Desmond Child out. And that was like his humor, but it really hurt my feelings.
Sure.
It was like, why don't you pick on your fucking enemies instead of like put somebody who's like actually helped to put money in your pocket.
Absolutely.
And so I called up Paul and I said, what is this? Why is he saying these things? And he said, well, Gene is Gene. I can't control Gene. And I said, well, tell him, that, he hurt my feelings and he can go fuck himself. And so a few hours later, I came back and there was a voice message on my voice machine. It said, "Hi, it's Gene. Sorry." Click.
Man. That was the big apology.
The only apology he's ever made in his entire life for anything. He gave that honor to me.
And how did you feel when he left the message? Did you feel honored?
I cracked up. No, I cracked up. I got the joke. It's like, when you're young and everything, you get sensitive about these things. And I was maybe a little precious, but, I'll tell you how we reconnected. I was at the Beverly Hills Hotel on Sunset Boulevard. And I always used to go kind of on the early side, down to this little like amazing retro diner that they have there with this curved counter.
Okay.
And they have stools, these metal stools that are kind of fastened to the ground that you can kind of twist and turn. So there was no one there. I was sort of like by myself. So I had gotten a New York Times. I was reading New York Times. And then I started feeling like this funny feeling on the sides of my thighs. And then all of a sudden It was like, what was that? I got startled because all of a sudden these big hands were grabbing my ass. And I looked down, and Gene had crawled in under all the stools, gotten underneath the stool, and had reached up to grab my ass.
Oh my God.
And it was like, he sat next to me, and that's, when we actually became friends.
Right.
You know? Right. So if Gene Simmons grabs your ass, know that that's like a gesture of friendship.
There you go. I'll keep that in mind next time I meet him. Now, what age were you when you wrote? Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. And so he gave me a lot of really great advice. In fact, one of his advices was because he had done Family Jewels with Leslie Greif. Okay. And I had known Leslie's father, George. And so they had produced it for 7 years together. And he said, why don't you do a reality show on being, a gay dads in Nashville?
Okay.
And so he said, this has been the greatest thing that's ever happened for me. It's like it really expanded our brand and all this kind of stuff. So actually, I convinced my husband, Curtis, and our kids to try it.
Okay.
And we came up with a show called Gay Acres.
Okay.
Like Green Acres,
Gay
Acres, like on to live in Red State.
Right.
And Fox actually filmed us, and it was very tiresome. They were, night and day cameras in our house for 2 weeks. And we put the pilot together. And in the end, they didn't pick it up, which was a good thing because our sons were getting very, not into it.
Okay.
The intrusiveness and all that. They're very, not shy, but, kind of reserved guys,
sure.
Right?
Okay.
And but that actually opened the door to us making our own documentary called The Story of Roman and Nero, and it can be found on Amazon and iTunes. We have a website for it called tothedocumentary.com. And it's a 12-year journey that started before, when Curtis and I decided to look for a surrogate mom to have kids, to have a kid. We didn't know it was going to be two.
Sure.
And it follows a 12-year journey.
Nice.
And then in the end, our director, Heather Winters, figured out that it would be cool to have our sons be the narrators of the documentary.
Right.
So that's how it happened, and it became a beautiful experience. And Curtis's mom, who had been a fundamentalist Christian, had gone through it took her like 10 years of her own journey to kind of come to a place where she could accept, that Curtis was gay and that, I was actually her son-in-law,
Right.
And now she had grandchildren,
right.
And so she has an incredible scene in the middle of the documentary, and it's like so intense, so emotional. It's worth seeing just for that. She's the star of the movie. And I started saying, but the trouble is if we decide to turn this into a scripted film, the only person that could play her is Meryl Streep.
Okay.
Because it would require that much range of emotion that we saw go over her face. That was so incredible.
Oh man.
And so we did that, and living in Nashville, it was great for our kids.
Right.
For sure.
Nice.
And for Curtis, because Curtis had met friends of his own, through the parents at the school, and we were in travel soccer, and Curtis is the kind of person that reaches out and connects. It's like no one would like me if Curtis wasn't. If he likes me, then they should like me.
That is so funny. Well, I've often said this to me. I'm a big guy. I read all the liner notes on albums. So I've known your name from when I bought Dynasty. I knew Desmond Child's name was right there. But it must be nice that you were able to have a tremendous amount of success. I think you have like 80 songs that were in the top 40 charts, right? But you probably also still have even more, right? Even more. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to cut you short.
Now with Ava Max, Kings and Queens, and also Zed, Beautiful Now. So I've actually had a #1 song in 6 decades.
Wow, that's incredible.
Who can say that?
Exactly. Well, that's why I said you are the jukebox of my life, right? The jukebox of my life.
Now
right?
you've got it.
Now I've got it, right?
Now,
but you're still able probably to walk down the street and have a certain amount of anonymity. You're not like walking down the street like John Bon Jovi probably can't go anywhere without being flogged by tons of people. Do you feel like you get recognized when you're out in public, or do you enjoy like kind of going?
No, he stole all the attention.
He stole all the attention. Is that attention that you ever wanted, or are you happy that you kind of?
No, I wanted to be a superstar myself.
Okay.
But it didn't work out because when Desmond Child and Rouge was happening and we made those two albums, it kind of like I self-destructed because also I had the problem of coming out. So Runners in the Night was, I was living with Maria Vidal, and we were the co-founders of Desmond Child and Rouge. We were boyfriend and girlfriend living in this tiny apartment on the East Side for 4.5 years. And then I realized that I was really more gay than I was bi.
Okay.
And so that was very painful and kind of broke up our group. And so the second album, Runners in the Night, we went from this very colorful, bright album and fun and kind of, blue-eyed soul, kind of pop, rock, Latin thing to a kind of dark vision, this kind of more strict rock and punk kind of record, all in 6 months. And that's when I came out. The first song on the record is called "The Truth Comes Out," and it's all about my relationship with Maria. And it was like, that it's like I kind of fell apart, and then I had somebody telling me, oh well, you could be a star on your own. You don't need those girls. Those girls are cheesy. They make you look like a cabaret act. And the fact is that, Prince and everybody, Madonna, Michael Jackson, they all had, people in costumes and all of that. But we had just gone through that kind of shoegazing punk scene in New York.
Yep, absolutely.
The Cure, the Clash, all that kind of stuff. It was very kind of 3 chords, very dark, hair in the face. That was later, the next wave of that was Nirvana.
Right, absolutely.
In between was the glory days.
Right, was the Desmond Child era.
Yeah, exactly. The thing is, it's that, there was a glass ceiling for me in many ways, being gay. So I started having collaborations like with Bon Jovi and Aerosmith and Kiss, but I wasn't really allowed to be in the boys club of being the producer. Because I think subconsciously or unconsciously or maybe even consciously, they didn't want a gay guy, dick slapping him in the studio. Because in truth, no matter what, no matter how big the star, the producer is the boss.
Absolutely.
And the artist has to surrender in order for them to do their best.
Yep.
So it was okay for them to be co-writers with me, because then there was kind of equality. But like for me to be on top, that. So what happened was people started asking me for songs. Give us, a hit song, right? Like artists that didn't write. And so I said, okay, but I have to be the producer. So I had to arm twist Charles Koppelman into letting me produce Ronnie Spector.
Okay.
Remember, she had a hit with Eddie Money. Take me home tonight. Be my little baby.
Good song. Yeah.
Right? Which was an interpolation of Be My Baby.
Right.
And so Diane Warren and I and Paul Stanley co-wrote a song called Love on a Rooftop.
Yep.
That I then recorded later on Discipline.
Great album.
But it was more than me. I mean, we cut it with Cher, we cut it with Robin Beck, we cut it with, that was my first production, Ronnie Spector.
Right.
And I tried to evoke the whole Spector wall of sound with that song, with bells and, 6 acoustic guitars and 2 pianos, and it sounded ginormous. And so then it sort of kept me going on this kind of larger than life sound, very cinematic, very theatrical, anthemic. So that's that's how I kept going. So they kept giving me like what I call, the weirdos to produce, the androgynous to produce, the people that, like Cher, Joan Jett, Meatloaf, Alice Cooper.
Alice Cooper, yeah.
Alice Cooper, Ricky Martin, they were solo artists that were kind of theatrical entities. And then I could project all of this interior rock star that was inside of me into those characters that were already famous.
Yep, absolutely.
And helped them a lot, because, they started having hits again.
Yep.
And so, that's sort of what happened to me. It's like the more success I had, the more I kept doing it, because it was like, oh, well, maybe this chance will dry up and I can always go back to being a rock star,
right?
Which was my first aim. So then as soon as Nirvana came in and I saw that Smells Like Teen Spirit on MTV and all of my acts disappeared from the screen.
Right.
It was like, oh my God. And I think I was like, it was crazy. I was like 34 years old, maybe 33. And my manager had said to me, well, I think you're pretty much washed up as a producer. I was 33.
Right. Right. But meanwhile, you had some of your biggest hits a few years later.
Yeah, right? Exactly. But that's when I said, okay, well, I had heard some kind of country song that sounded like Bon Jovi. So I heard that was Garth Brooks. So I said, okay, I'm going to write for Garth Brooks because it's Bon Jovi with a twang and a hat. To me, like, it was no different.
Right, absolutely.
Story songs, the same kind of big chords and, kind of heartland kind of sound, just a little more twang.
Right.
And so I went to Nashville, and there was a writer there who opened the door for me, Victoria Shaw. And we wrote our first country song, and she had written The River.
Okay.
With Garth Brooks. And so that was always it's like, well, maybe through her I could get into the Garth Brooks world.
Sure.
And he cut our song and made it a duet with Trisha Yearwood. And while making that duet, they fell in love.
Oh, wow.
So one song wrecked 2 marriages, destroyed 2 families. But the song's called Where Your Road Leads, I will follow. Where your road leads, I will follow. And they have stuck together, and it was meant to be. And so they owe everything, their entire happiness, to me.
To you.
And Victoria Shaw.
Right.
Because she's a dynamo, and she made sure that song got cut. And so then I wrote with Gary Burr. We wrote a song called Heart Half Empty, which went to _2 with Ty Herndon. And it was getting ready to go to #1, and then Ty had a problem, and then had song with Black Hawk, so I started getting into the country thing. But by that point, Curtis and I had bought this cabin, this kind of shack, and we made it like really rustic. And I figured, well, if you're going to write country songs, you may as well look like you live in the country.
Okay.
Like all I needed was a corn pipe, and like, on the porch writing country songs. And, and I would walk around with a cowboy hat. Meanwhile, everybody was making fun of me behind my back because they didn't wear cowboy hats. They wore like baseball caps backwards and drove Miatas, and I'm in a pickup truck with a baseball, just trying to fit in.
Right.
And I remember so much that Marty Bandier used to poke so much fun at me because he was my publisher at EMI at the time. And Desmond, gotta hand it to you. There I was with the cowboy boots, cowboy hat, big buckle, string tie. It's like, I'm going to fit into this place. But in the meantime, what won us over, were the people. I wrote with Marcus Hummon for Winona Judd. His wife, Becca Stevens, the Reverend Becca Stevens, became our minister. We took our kids there to the church. And then they had a kid. And he was like, 2 years old at the time. Well, guess what? Levi Hummon, and he's my artist.
Nice.
And he's signed to my publishing company,
Very
and he's
cool.
killing it on Spotify, Levi
Nice.
Hummin.
Nice.
And he just had a song cut by Tim McGraw called Not From California.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I get to Nashville, and here's this little kid, and now like he's getting songs cut by Tim McGraw. It's like, it's been fantastic living there, being part of the community. I got involved trying to get the fountains finished. You know, there's these naked statues, bronze naked statues in the circle at the end of Music Row. Okay. It's called Musica. And that was supposed to be the centerpiece of these gushing fountains. And I was like, what's not right about this? They're 40 feet high. I mean, the men, they're naked, and the men have penises like the size of like paper towel rolls, you know.
Okay. Well, to me, you know, one of the things with you is that
try to throw those at people. Right. But anyway, it's called the Fountains of Musica Foundation, and you can go online and you can see our plan, the vision of what it's going to be. And I spent the last 8 years trying to raise the money for it. It's like a $15 million project.
That's amazing.
But that was my way to meet people that weren't just in the music business.
Right, right.
You know,
right.
From all walks of life, and it's been absolutely wonderful. So Nashville has been, and at the same time, the city grew and became a cosmopolitan center. That TV show that Callie Curry made called Nashville brought so many people to Nashville, and everyone looked around and said, this place is fantastic.
Right, right.
And we live in a blue county, sort of like a speck of blue in a red sea. But everyone's getting along.
There you go.
And we absolutely love it there.
That's great. Now, to me, one of the things that's made your career so amazing is how you've been able to adapt, right? So, you know, in the 80s, it was the hair metal, I'll call it, scene. You know, then you went, like you said, into some country. Then you went into Latin music. I remember when my daughter was very young and she had a Hilary Duff CD. There's your name in it. You wrote one of those songs also. And then we have Katy Perry. Yeah. It's like you were able to adapt pretty much to everything.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, to me, it's all about the story. It's all about the essence of the artist, what they want to say. Style to me is secondary because it's like making a movie. It's like you can make a Western, or you can make a movie set like in Downton Abbey, and it's about telling the story. What's the score going to be? It's going to be something appropriate to that story. So to me, it's like style is just interconnected scoring for the story, which is in the lyrics. And the person who taught me that was Bob Crew, who produced and co-wrote all these songs with Bob Gaudio for the Four Seasons.
Okay.
He wrote Lady Marmalade.
Okay.
He got to see his song be #1 twice, 20 years apart.
Right.
With LaBelle, and with you know, Pink, and you know, Beyonce or whoever was doing that.
I think it was the four. Christina Aguilera.
Yeah, and it was like it was so great. It was part of Moulin Rouge.
Yep, that's right. That's right. Now let me
Moulin Rouge.
Yeah. Now let me ask you.
So
go ahead.
So Bob became a mentor of mine after Desmond Child and Rouge, and I spent 2 years co-writing with him. We co-wrote 38 songs. None of them really became hits or anything, but he taught me how to write hit songs.
That's amazing.
He taught me the art of the continuity between one line and the other, building a story. How you can't just have random lines. He taught me about clean rhymes at the end. You know, contrary to you know, public knowledge of and love doesn't rhyme with enough.
Right.
One's a V and the other one's whatever.
Right.
It's a different sound.
Right. Very funny.
Enough. Oh, it's an F sound and the other one's like a V sound.
Right.
But in so many songs, don't you see love and then the next word coming up is enough?
Yeah, that's very true. Very true.
That don't rhyme.
It doesn't.
That don't rhyme.
But
and
you
I'm
make it work.
Of having, yeah. But the thing is that when you also start getting sensitive to alliteration and inner rhyming from line to line, you know, like walked into a bar on the shore, her picture graced the grime on the door.
Right.
Never judge a book by its cover, or who you're going to love by your lover.
Right.
You know, all alliteration and inner rhyming is like glue that sticks to the listener's mind, because then it's easier to remember. And then the next time they hear it, they can sing along.
Absolutely.
And then it sticks. And then that's how I've been successful. Okay, whoever heard this, forget what I just said. I don't want you to be competing.
Well, I don't think it's as easy as you make it sound.
Erase what I just said. Those are my secrets.
Those are your secrets. But, so let me ask you a question. When you are writing a song, right? I've seen you play piano. On your solo album, I don't think you played any instruments. Is piano the only instrument you play? And how do you go about writing a song? Is it more lyric-driven, piano-driven? What's your process?
Well, I mean, Bob Crew wouldn't even let me sing one note until we had a hit title.
Okay.
So we could sit there all day telling stories, and he would be the one talking because I had no life, and he had lived so much. And he would just tell me all these stories, and something he would say would capture our imagination, would be a title.
Okay.
And then, you know, like we wrote a song called, you know, New York Rendezvous. Okay. And you know, we started telling New York stories. And so once we started having like New York Rendezvous, was like the scoring kind of called for a certain style and a certain tempo and a certain melody, because melody's already implied in a lyric. Like melody, da da da, melody is implied, you know,
makes sense,
within a lyric. It's just right there. And so if you're just sensitive and you're musical, you can hear the melody already in the words that you're writing.
Makes sense.
Then if you're writing a kind of, this is like very 101, but if you're writing a sad song, then you play minor chords.
Right.
If you're writing a happy song, then it's major chords.
Right.
Then everybody's happy because we have a physical response to minor and major.
Sure.
So then you start saying, okay, well, are these lyrics happy or sad? Okay, determine that. Is this supposed to be danced to, slow or fast? Fast, you know, and then, you know, never judge a book by its cover. You know, it's just like all, you know, sounds happy.
Right.
And put a smile on people's face.
Right.
So that's the job of the artist.
Okay.
Because not everyone should be or can be or should be an artist. Right. Like, or else we wouldn't be able to make a living.
Makes sense.
So, you know, the real geniuses like Bob Dylan, they're 1 in a billion.
Right, of course.
Right. You know? Then there's like the rest of us.
Right.
You know, and we find our place, you know, in terms of how much the world needs what we do.
Right.
Somewhere in there. Right. You know, so I try to keep myself in the top 1%.
Right. So, and I think you've done well. You know, I remember in the 80s, whenever I'd buy an album, like I said, I'd look at the liner notes, I'd look at the inside sleeve before I put it on, and I'd say, all right, Desmond Child, that's going to be a good one. Desmond Child, that's going to be a good one. Like you said, you always ended up with the singles, whether it was Kiss, Bon Jovi, Aerosmith. More times than not, your songs were the singles. But the one I remember when the Kiss Asylum album came out.
But there's a reason why.
Why is that?
There's a reason why.
Why is that?
Because they would reluctantly bring me in at the end as an insurance policy.
Okay.
You know, just like, well, let's see. I mean, we have our album. Our album's recorded. It's fantastic. Okay. Well, let's see what Desmond can help us come up with.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden it was like, but because it was fresh and it was new, then they'd play it for the record company and management. It was like, that's the first single.
Right.
Because
okay.
The other songs.
Gotcha.
So the fact that they would bring me in at the end reluctantly, and then all of a sudden I'd knock a couple out of the park, you know, over the course of 2 or 3 days, that kind of served me.
Right. Well, that makes sense. But I remember on the Kiss Asylum album, there was 2 songs, right? Who Wants to Be Lonely and the very subtle All Night that had your name on it, right? But it also had John Beauvoir on it. So I was like, oh, did those 3 sit down together and write? Like, how did that work with the 3 of you?
I think Who Wants to Be Lonely, we wrote the 3 of us up at Paul's apartment.
Okay, cool.
And, with that bass and everything.
I love that bass line.
Have you ever interviewed him?
Yes, I did about 3 months ago. Great guy. Yes. Yes.
So that's one of my favorite songs, period. Who Wants to Be Lonely. It's so haunting.
I love it.
And it's sophisticated, and I just love that. And it's like every person that's in the sacred circle, brings their soul and life experience and everything to it. So when John Bon Jovi, Richie Sambora, and I co-wrote "Livin On A Prayer," each of us was bringing our own experience, to it. John always talks about Bonnie and Joe, who were like friends of like high school sweethearts that they knew from high school that had gone through tough times. So in the back of his mind, he had that going on. And Richie, I think, was thinking more about his parents.
Right.
Because remember, they were very young. And his parents, were like Jersey people that struggled, to make a living. And they had a lot of ups and downs. And for me, it was, my life with Maria when we were living in that little apartment. And she was working in a diner, and it was like a singing waitress job where she had a little name tag with a fake name, and her name was Gina Velvet. So that's where I got Gina and threw it into the hat. And she stuck. And then I said Gina, and because my original name is John Barrett, I said Gina and Johnny. And then John looked at me and said, I can't sing Johnny because I'm Johnny.
I'm Johnny, right.
It'd be like I'm singing about myself, and it's, oh, right. And so then I think, we were like, Johnny. And then I think John said Tommy.
Right.
Gina, Tommy and Gina.
Right.
And that's how, everybody threw something into the pot.
Now, when you wrote that song, did you know it was going to be, did it say hit song to you right away? Because I remember John Bon Jovi saying, hey, we almost didn't put that on the album. And I say, what the hell were they thinking? What did you think when you wrote the song?
Well, sometimes artists have things that influence them. Like, I think he was at a point where he wanted to really rock, and he was like, his influences, who knows what they are, but, his thrust, wanted to be a rock star and write stadium music, stadium anthems. And Livin On A Prayer seemed a bit sentimental, seemed a bit feminine to him, seemed a bit, like that. It didn't go with this kind of like, kind of idea that he had for the overall sound of the record.
Sure.
So they had written like 100 songs. So I think what, they would always do is they would get kids together, high school kids together, and in a little kind of theater, and play the demos and get opinions. And I think it tested well.
Yes, absolutely.
But even then, John was like, I don't know. And so Richie and I literally, half joking, half like really serious, got on our hands and knees and begged him.
Oh, wow.
To cut it, like just cut it. And,
the
they
rest
cut
is
it
history.
With Bruce Fairburn, Bob Rock. I mean, it was magic.
Right.
And they had gone to Vancouver. And then when they sent me what they had done, it was like goosebumps from top to bottom.
Absolutely. Now, the other song on that album, one of the other songs that you wrote was You Give Love a Bad Name, which to me sounds like it's a second take of the Bonnie Tyler song, If You Were a Woman and I Was a Man. Was that something that was very conscious?
Yes, of course it was. Because I had solely written If You Were a Woman, I Was a Man because Jim Steinman, who was produced Total Eclipse of the Heart, had called me and asked me, and I had never met Jim, to write him a special song where the verses were like Tina Turner and the B section was like the Police, Hall & Oates or something like that. And then the chorus was like Bruce Springsteen. So, you know, the Bonnie Tyler song goes, how's it feel to be a woman? And then also, I like this kind of Billie Jean, or these dreams are made of this, got how's it feel to be a woman? How's it feel to be a man? Oh, it had to be androgynous. Is it really that different? Tell me where we stand. And then now comes the Police part. I look at you, you look away. Why do you say we're night and day? I want to try for one more day. And then it went into the chorus. If you were a woman and I was a man, would it be so hard to understand that a heart? And that was sort of like the feeling of Because the Night. I say when I first met Springsteen, I said, hey, thank you for every hit I ever wrote. And he laughed hard.
That's great. Now, is it true?
So I was very disappointed because I thought that I had written like the ultimate song of all time. With If You Were When I Was a Man. I knew that melody had it. So they released it in Europe, and it only became it went #1 in one territory, which was France. And I was very disappointed. So like 2 years later, when I have my writing session with, my first writing session with John and Richie, I had come in there with a title in my back pocket, the Bob Crew rule, always walk into the room with the hot title in your back pocket in case things got slow. And I whipped it out, You Give Love a Bad Name. And, you know, John looked at me and he had, all of a sudden I saw for the first time the, you know, $10 billion smile. You know, it was like, oh my God, he almost like blinded me with the teeth. And so then I told him, look, I have this hook that didn't go anywhere with Bonnie Tyler. And the melody, you know, kind of goes like this. And then the verse that were like, you know, had a dun 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 dun. And then Richie said, no, that just sounds like Michael Jackson, or like it just sounds like R&B. I said, play it on guitar, but do it like chug it, like. And so he started like chun 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 chun, and it was like magic, you know. And they had a song from the first album, I think, called Shot Through the Heart. Which John always loved that hook. So it was like we were like, you know, borrowing from the best of what we had everywhere and threw it together and created You Give Love a Bad Name. And that was our first song.
Absolutely. And
not
I remember,
bad.
Yeah, no, not bad at all. Now, question for you is, you know, I know Bon Jovi toured with Kiss in '84, and the story I've heard through the years is that Paul Stanley said to John Bon Jovi, hey, you got to hook up with this guy, Desmond Child, that I write with. I've written Heaven's on Fire. I've written I Was Made for Loving You. Is that how you got connected with Bon Jovi, through Paul Stanley?
Yeah. I got a call from John saying, hey, Paul gave me your number. Let's try doing something. But what I read, never to my face, but what I've read in articles is John was saying, well, we got together with him to see if we could write cuts for other people that could cover. So that to make money, you know, and like to, you know, keep action going and have a hit with somebody else and all this kind of stuff. But then, you know, first day we wrote You Give Love a Bad Name. That idea went out the window.
That's a keeper.
But we did cut, you know, We All Sleep Alone. We had written during that period, and we cut it and produced it together for Cher. And that's when Richie met Cher. Let's not go there.
Another couple that you were partly responsible for, I guess.
Exactly. And so I just want to finish telling the story of 3 hits. If You Were a Woman, I Was a Man, people should listen to that. Then You Give Love a Bad Name, like many years later.
Mm-hmm.
Then recently, there's been an interpolation of If You Were a Woman, I Was a Man that Ava Max did,
Okay.
called Kings and Queens.
Okay.
Kings and Queens. And if you A and B, If You Were a Woman, I Was a Man, and Kings and Queens, it even starts with if. If kings could, kings and queens, if this and that. And it was like the same androgynous thing, men, women, if you're a woman, I was a man. And so, I mean, I became a co-writer on that song because of the original song I was solely written.
Mm-hmm.
And so, after all was said and done, I didn't even think about it. I looked and I found out I had 9 co-writers.
Wow. Wow. That's crazy.
But now they've done like remixes with these other 2 different rappers, and they each got a piece of the song. So now I have I think 8 more co-writers with the 9, and then there's, including her, and then there's me.
Wow. That's amazing. That's
awesome. But guess what? It was #1 in Europe 3 weeks ago.
Congratulations. Nice.
And it made it into the top 10 here. So, it's a hit. So It's a tale of 3 hits. It's a tale of 3 hits. The same melody, is still making it.
Well, I knew about the first 2. I'll have to check out the third one now. As soon as we're done, that's what I'm going to go do.
And a freak.
Yeah,
you should play it a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely, I will.
Just the opening, just A and B it with If You Were a Woman, I Was a Man.
I will, absolutely.
And so, that's the beauty of music. I mean, it is pliable, and, as long as my name was still on it, then it's all good.
Then it's all good. Absolutely. Right. You're still getting your credits.
But that's why, that made it my 6th decade of #1 hits.
That's absolutely amazing. Now, I know when you first started working with Aerosmith, things were not as smooth as working with Kiss and working with Bon Jovi. What happened there when you first got introduced to them, and how did you turn the corner there? Because you ended up writing some amazing songs with them as well. No pun intended by using the word amazing.
Well, I had been approached by the great John Claudner, A&R executive at Geffen, to come in and help with Cher, who hadn't made a record in 8 years. And everyone, any time I said Cher, oh yeah, she's a Vegas act, she could never make it back in music. She's television, whatever, she's tabloid, whatever. And I said, well, let me meet her. And I went up, she was doing a play called Welcome to the Five and Dime, Jimmy Dean on Broadway. And I met her up in this beautiful penthouse that, they had rented for her. And it was like I had entered Cleopatra's den. And she had long black straight hair with the bangs and incense and like a Dream of Jeannie's bottle kind of decor. And I just fell in love with her. But I was already in love with her when I was 12, 13.
Okay.
I didn't know whether I wanted, at that point, I didn't know whether I wanted to sleep with her or be her.
Okay.
I was a little bit confused, but I had a big poster of her, not Sunny, just of her, on my bedroom wall when I was little. So there I was in front of Cleopatra. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And so it really inspired me, and I started collecting songs and co-writing with Diane Warren, and we wrote special songs for her, like a song called Perfection, and I grabbed songs of hers that I helped to co-produce, not co-produce, I arranged the vocals on You Turn Back Time, So in the background, that's me, Maria Vidal, and Robin Beck.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Doing the Turn Back Time.
Okay. Nice.
Find a way. I remember my part. And so, we wrote a song called Just Like Jesse James.
Okay.
And then we had this song, We All Sleep Alone, that John felt like I was hoping it would go on Bon Jovi, on the, New Jersey album.
New Jersey, okay.
Because it's really a strong song. We All Sleep Alone. It's very haunting and dark. And he said, it feels like a chick song. Okay. So that's when I said, well, let's give it to Cher. And with her, the casting was so perfect, Oh, later, we all sleep alone. You know, it's like, who can't do that?
Right, right.
Like, there's a little Cher in everybody that can
It's
do
Cher,
that.
for crying out loud, right?
Shower Cher. Everybody does.
Right. Right.
But you know, and like I said, that's when she met Richie, and it was a wonderful experience. You know, just the whole thing. And so, you know, we also had written another song that I think it got cut with, and I can't remember whether I co-wrote the song with Paul Stanley or I'd co-written with Bon Jovi a song called Sword and Stone.
That was a Kiss song. Yep.
You know,
Yep. That's Kiss. That's an unreleased Kiss song. Yep.
Amazing
song. Yep. Amazing song. I don't know why they didn't release it.
Did Kiss ever cut it?
Nope. To this day, they've never released it. I think a group Bonfire recorded it.
Bonfire,
Yep.
right. So you see, I was getting cuts like here and there. I didn't produce that, but you know, the song was sent out there. But there was another song I think that we co-wrote that another Canadian band did or something.
Okay.
But so we were kind of like, you know, we wrote a lot of songs, so they couldn't all go on the record. So then they were starting to find homes here and there.
Absolutely.
Later on, I think Bon Jovi did this big box set of outtakes and demos and all this stuff. And it was like, wow, I forgot about that song. Right. That's so cool.
Right.
You know, so songs kind of like turned up there.
Right. So, but now where did the Aerosmith connection come in then for you?
Oh, well, John Claudner had signed Aerosmith.
Right. Okay.
And so they did the first record called Done with Mirrors. That was, you know, didn't do so well, but also it was hard bringing the band back together. They were in rehab and meetings and this and that. And so I got forced on them because I was having success elsewhere.
Sure.
And they had never co-written with anyone that wasn't in the band or in their circle or maybe a producer, maybe.
Right.
And, you know, I got, you know, I went to Boston. They picked me up in a limo, took me to this big giant warehouse, and I walked in. It was like a movie. It was 100 guitars on stands, every kind of guitar, every glitter, every tiger, every leopard, every, you know, sunburst, every acoustic guitar imaginable. 100, no joke, 100, like an arm, you know, rows and rows. And there was a stage built up, and that's where they were rehearsing for their tour.
Okay.
And so mountains of stacks of Marshalls and of course the, you know, the solitary mic stand in the middle with like
the handkerchiefs and all hanging down, right?
Long silks and you know, beautiful scarves,
right.
tie-dye scarves and all that.
Yep.
And I walk in, you know, it's kind of like one of those, like the doors were giant, stream of light, and little me kind of walking in. And Stephen, and I hear something's going on like to the side of the stage. And Stephen comes up and he said, he greeted me. You know, he's a people pleaser. He's a very sweet person. He was super nice to me. Joe wasn't thrilled that I was there. So I come up and, you know, Stephen said, hey, come listen to this. What do you think of this? So they were doing a backwards guitar loop that was going da-da, da-da. To me, it sounded like kind of boogie woogie, kind of like harmonica or something. Wah, 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 wah. And Stephen started singing, cruising for the ladies, cruising for the ladies. And then they stopped it and they looked at me and they said, what do you think about that? I said, I think that's really bad. Like the first words I said.
Okay.
Joe crossed his arms and now he's like looking at me sideways like this, you know, and down, sideways. And he says, well, you know, because he's, you know, was sheepishly said, well, I mean, I said, I was thinking, I don't know, maybe I even said it. I said, I don't think Van Halen would put that on the B side of their worst record. That's how bad.
Okay.
That's how bad. What are you saying? Cruising for the ladies down Sunset Strip, top down in a pink Cadillac? Is that what you're telling me?
Right.
That's like Motley Crue.
Right.
That's not Aerosmith. That's not cool.
Right.
What do what is this? And so Steven said, well, when I first started singing that hook, I was singing Dude Looks Like a Lady. And I stopped and I said, what? Dude Looks Like a Lady. I said, that's a smash hit title.
Right.
And Joe said, well, we don't know what that means. You know, very butch, you know, masculine. We don't know what that means.
Right.
I said, I know what that means. Follow. And so, you know, I got them to help write the storyline. Well, let me just go back a step. It's because Steve, I said, how did you come up with Dude Looks Like a Lady? He said, well, we had all gone to this bar and it was kind of empty and there was this gorgeous, you know, big blonde, teased up, you know, creature at the end of the bar, you know, curvy with smooth, beautiful skin, black nails and a handkerchief. It was like a little tank top and all curvy and all this. And then we were there with the roadies and everything, and everyone was like drawing straws, like who's going to go up and say hello, you know? And so all of a sudden she turns around and it's Vince Neil of Motley Crue. And Steven started going, ooh, that dude looks like a lady. Dude looks like a lady. Dude looks like a lady. And I said, okay, let's tell that story.
Right.
So I hoodwinked them into telling the story of a guy that walks into a bar, sees this gorgeous stripper on stage, falls in love, and then, you know, goes back, and then she whips out her gun and tries to blow him away. And it was like, but the thing about the song is he doesn't run away.
Right. That's
he stays.
True. That's true.
Because the second verse says, never judge a book by its cover. Or you're gonna love by your lover. So it's like, love put me wise. In disguise. She had the body of the Venus. Man, imagine my surprise. Goes sort of like.
Right, absolutely.
And then he goes, my funky lady, I like it like that. And it was, he goes for it.
Right, oh, absolutely.
And so, okay, so we were so ahead of the trans movement.
That's true. I've never thought about that. That's so true.
And of acceptance. And you know, I've had, you know, some GLBT people like say, oh, well, you know, that's kind of like anti-GLBT. It's like, no, man. It's like, I'm gay. It's not anti-nothing. It's the opposite.
It's the opposite.
Listen to the words of that song.
And are those lyrics yours or is it Steve's, the lyrics?
No, we did them together. You know, it was like a back and forth.
Right.
You know, and it was, you know, it came to life. The record company loved it, and it became their first single off the next record, Permanent Vacation. And the next day I showed up and Joe didn't turn up. I don't know if he liked me.
Okay. So
I mean, there's always a Gene or a Joe, right?
I was just going to say, like, Gene came around. Has Joe come around?
Oh, my God, yes.
Okay.
So, but the second day, Joe didn't turn up, and so it was just no roadies, no nobody. The big warehouse, and there was a little keyboard facing the stage, at the lip of the stage, a little Wurlitzer. And we sat on this little bench together, side by side. And I said, tell me about your life. And that just floodgates, you know. Steven loves to share, maybe overshare, but the more the better with him. And he told me that he had a hard time and gone to rehab and whatnot, and had met this beautiful, gorgeous woman that he married named Teresa. And he said, she's my angel. And when he said angel, and those lips wrapped around the words angel, I started thinking about Mick Jagger singing Angie. And I said, oh my God, that's the key. Because I always kind of like hypersensitive. What's the key? What's the key? What can I hook onto? So we wrote this song where he says angel like about 1 million times. And so every time he says it, those big blubber lips, you know, angel, right? I couldn't have been happier. And, you know, the song was more pop than they had expected, but it became a hit.
And I
mean,
personally, I think it's great. I think it's a great song.
for a long time they weren't playing it live,
Mm-hmm.
but then they got over all that later after they
Mm-hmm.
did a song they didn't write, I Don't Want to Miss a Thing,
Right.
and the big battle. So all of that, we're so cred and we are so like, you know, all that. We're not pop artists and all that. It was like, okay, it's like music, man. The Beatles were pop artists. Let's get with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Queen was pop artists.
Mm-hmm.
Their biggest influences.
Right.
Queen and the Beatles.
Right.
Are you
Absolutely.
kidding me?
Right. So true.
And Led Zeppelin. You take those three acts together, and that's Aerosmith.
That's very well said. So I'm glad you brought up the song before, Sword and Stone, right? Because as a Kiss fan, I love that song. Is there any songs that you've written for, whether it's Kiss, Bon Jovi, Aerosmith, that you thought was going to be, hey, that's the next #1 hit, and it didn't quite work out that way, maybe?
Well, I think that one of the best songs I co-wrote with John Bon Jovi, I think Richie joined the song later, is a song called You Want to Make a Memory.
Oh, I love it. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And somehow they produced it in a very soft kind of style, like it was kind of like almost like U2, like doon 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 doon, very linear.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so I was a bit like questioning. I mean, I think it still made it like in adult radio or something.
Right.
It was like made it to the top of that, but to me that song had a much more the potential of being a much more explosive song. And so when I did my own record, just last year, Desmond Child Live, I do the song my own way, and much more like full out, with real drums and all this kind of stuff. It wasn't quite like that song was made kind of like to be a special kind of like radio record.
Okay. Yep.
But to me, I mean, that was kind of like that. Maybe at that time, like maybe they thought that would be the right thing to do. But the song I felt was more theatrical and bigger than that approach.
Makes sense.
But that's one of the best songs I've co-written, with John. And and Richie came in and helped with the arrangement and everything, and so that's why the three of us are on the record. But that's one that I thought could go all the way.
Right.
But I didn't control the production.
Right. Makes sense.
So it's like that's one of the very few things, and usually, I mean, especially when Bruce Fairbairn was at the helm, nothing he did disappointed me. And it was beyond my wildest dreams.
Sure.
Like the song What It Takes with Aerosmith. That song is like a masterpiece.
Right. No, another great song. Absolutely.
That Bruce Fairbairn produced before he passed away.
Right.
So, it's like things sometimes that are great. Sometimes Bob Crew used to always say, my mentor, that what is a hit? A hit is you look up, or what is a star or a hit? It's like an alignment of many stars, and up in the sky it looks like one giant outshining star that looks bigger than it's like the Bethlehem star, right?
Right.
You look back behind it, there's the artist, the song, the production, the manager, the record company, the promotion department, the booking agent, now the social media person.
Sure, yeah.
And all those things have to align together to create one Gaga, one Beyonce. Everything has to come together. It doesn't happen by itself.
Right. Absolutely.
And it's it's made to look like it's all about just the one person, but all of us little people, all us little people behind are part of the thing.
Absolutely. No,
that's why it's so hard to make it, because part of the hardest thing that a star has to do is hold their team together, their band together, not fight with their manager, not leave their agent, for greener pastures. That's where a lot of people lose their momentum. They can't start over with new people who don't care as much.
Sure.
But but the artists, there's always somebody they meet that says, hey, you know what, I could do better than blah, blah, blah. And so then they go through all the torture of firing that person and distancing themselves from that person and really hurt their feelings and their family. And I mean, it goes so deep. And many times they come back and they go, okay, I made a mistake. I sowed my wild oats elsewhere. Let's get back to what we do best.
Right.
And, it comes back together. Sometimes they don't.
So let me ask you this, right? So we spoke a lot about all the stuff that you've worked on in the past, but I know you've mentioned your autobiography in the past. Is there an update on that?
Yes, I've been working on it for 4.5 years with the esteemed music historian and ghostwriter David Ritz. And we're still revising things as things keep changing in the story. And, we've had several deals on the table, but when it comes right down to it, it just feels weird to go to a publishing company and then all of a sudden they own your life and you only get 25%, they get 75%. They won't agree to put real numbers on the contract of how much they're going to put into it to promote it. They won't say what they're going to do because that's not their business. They want complete flexibility. If they smell that it's going to be a stiff, they drop you, but they still own your life. And so I've come, very close to the altar, maybe 4 or 5 times. And then in the end, I back off. So now I don't know what to do. I'm thinking about self-publishing it. Because then I can still control it. And even if I don't sell as much, at least I own more of it. And I heard that Amazon has a good publishing, self-publishing thing. And so I'm working on that. I'm working on a book with Jody Marr. She's one of my dearest friends, producer, songwriter, and she's also a professor at Belmont. And we're working on a book called Anatomy of a Hit. And it's a real textbook because she teaches songwriting. She says, there is no real textbook, a contemporary textbook that I can recommend to all my students.
Right.
So we're going to take 12 songs and we're going to do deep dives into how they became hits.
That's awesome.
But we also have a section that's all, the history of sound and music and how from primordial days we communicated story and memory through our music and time. And then later on we were able to, write notes down and then record it and, everything that's in a blink of an eye of the history of mankind.
Absolutely.
It's turned into it's turned into Lizzo.
Right. Well, let me just let me share this with you. I just spoke about
From lizard to Lizzo. From lizard to Lizzo.
About 4 or 5 days ago, I spoke with Carrie Stevens, who just put out her own book, right? I think if you know who she is, and she self-published it. She put it out on Amazon. You probably know she dated Eric Carr in the 80s while you were working with Kiss, and she went on to be a playmate, etc. But the book came from Amazon. It's very professional. She praised the job that they did, and she was able to self-publish. So perhaps, Desmond, that's the way to do it.
I think I'm getting down to that right now. It's been very, very hard to let go of my baby, And I also keep thinking, I guess, wait, I didn't do that story. That story's so good.
Right.
It's like
right.
the general reading audience doesn't want to know that story.
Don't be so sure. Don't be so sure.
But it's like, oh no, but there's this is so good. This is and then that person did that. It's like, no. Usually it's the opposite. Like the co-writer wants all the dirt.
Right.
And it's like, I want to overshare and tell more dirt than I'm telling.
Right. Well, I can tell you, Desmond, usually I've done like 60 or 70 of these chats now. And when I was getting ready to meet with you, I was like, I could do this for 2 weeks because you have so many songs I'd love to hear the stories about. You have so many artists you've worked with. I was like, this is a problem for me because I could talk with this guy probably for weeks and never get tired of hearing him. So put all of it in the book, please, please.
Well, or the second book. One's
Go.
the textbook and one's like my life story, which is a little bit more personal.
Uh-huh.
It goes back to mom and and all this kind of stuff. My mom was a songwriter, Cuban poet and songwriter, Elena Casals, and I'm putting together her book too with
nice.
a very esteemed Cuban poet. We're organizing. My mom passed away in 2012, and after she passed away, I wanted to do something to honor her memory, and a producer and songwriter Rudy Perez and I founded the Latin Songwriters Hall of Fame. And so we have a show, and we're going into our 8th show next year, our 8th gala called La Musa Awards, and it's going to be at the Hollywood Hard Rock Hotel, Hard Rock Hotel Hollywood, Florida, and the Seminole reservation, and it's gorgeous. The hotel is in the shape of a giant 40-story guitar.
Okay.
And we're going to start doing our annual gala there. It's been very, very successful, and it's considered one of the most prestigious awards. When I was inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame in 2008, I inquired, and there had only been 2 other Latino songwriters ever inducted, Ernesto Lecuona and Jobim from Brazil. And so that's what gave me the idea. It's like, just like there was the Grammys, and then there had to be a Latin Grammy because it couldn't even begin to honor all the people that needed to be honored. So I thought there needs to be a Latin Songwriters Hall of Fame. So I'm a part of that, and very excited about it. I'm on the board of the Songwriters Hall of Fame as well, and I'm on the board of ASCAP. And so I do, and I'm on the legislative committee, and I'm like very involved in trying to uphold and solidify songwriters' rights.
Nice.
And it's a never-ending fight, because as new technologies came in, like streaming, we got left in the dust. And then
horribly left in the dust.
A couple of years ago, the Music Modernization Act, that somehow, some way, the entire industry, even people that were at odds of each other for many years, all came together and went to Washington, and that legislation was one of the only 100% bipartisan. Nobody voted against it, and went straight to the president's desk, signed it, and that was a really amazing first step to something that's more fair, for songwriters. So I love being a part of the, ASCAP board, and also I've gotten to, be with my idols, Paul Williams and Jimmy Webb. Oh my God, it's like, over there is Jimmy Webb, and over here is Williams, and then there's me. It's like, how did I get in this room? And that's where I met Valerie Simpson. And I go to her club in New York called Sugar Bar, where it's a little tiny club with a band, and people get up and sing soul songs, and everybody at the tables has mics, and everybody's a singer because they come in after their Broadway shows and all that, and you're surrounded by like all the backup singing for all the soul songs, and there's Valerie Simpson singing backup for you. I mean, it's nice. And it's like, wow, ain't no mountain high enough, all of that. I call that my church. Nice. I go there and I just like sit there, and I'm like in 7th heaven. And so all of this came out of my association with ASCAP and the Songwriters Hall of Fame. And so, now the Latin Songwriters Hall of Fame. So I'm in that stage in my life where I want to give back. But it's also, when you're a studio rat your whole life, you're lonely. You get lonely because you don't have time to be out to dinner with your friends.
Sure. Okay. Makes sense.
It's like, it's Saturday and you're going, everybody's out and I'm still here comping this vocal because Monday's my deadline. and I'm still working into Sunday. I'm just surprised my husband stayed with me. You know, gone so much, and
Right.
my kids, you know, I've been away from them so much, and now this is my last 5 days with them because Monday we deliver them to NYU and they move into the dorm. That drive home to Nashville is going to be like terrible.
No, my daughter went away for a year, so I understand that feeling. Absolutely.
You know, it's like, wow, you know, where was I?
Absolutely.
You know, luckily my husband's an incredible homemaker and he was always there for them.
That's great.
So it's not like they were ever abandoned. I think this is one of the few times we're not ever going to be with them. You know, because there was always one of us.
Right.
And then every year we'd go to Greece together, and for 30 days, it was just us, you know, day and night, you know, and that was a very, you know, great time. This year we weren't able to go.
Right, of course.
You know, because Americans aren't allowed.
No, unfortunately.
Like,
we're not allowed to go anywhere.
We're no good anymore?
Right, yeah, we can't go anywhere now, but
yeah, now we're dead meat.
That's right.
You know?
That's right.
What happened?
That's
you know,
right.
but
it sounds like
all that will change.
Yeah, well, it sounds like, you know, you were obviously blessed professionally. It sounds like you were blessed in your personal life as well. And to me, you deserve all of that. And, you know, I'll just say, Desmond, thank you for all that you've done for music for decades. You know I read recently you're going to be working with Alice Cooper again. I'm like, yeah, all right, that sounds exciting. Yeah, that sounds cool, you know.
We worked together on a new single together. It's like a duet, and I have it in the can, ready to go.
Nice.
I'm just waiting to get, you know, past this crazy time, you know.
Nice.
Because, you know, I just want it to be so that we can actually go out and promote it and, you know, and all that. I'm hoping I can get in a movie, like an action movie. I mean, it's like really demonic sounding. It's fantastic.
Okay. Nice.
And it's like the verses are real, like urban.
Okay.
And I'm singing those parts, and then Alice comes in and he like takes over the choruses, and it's like in the style of Poison, like with those demonic choirs. It's like got everything. We threw the kitchen sink into it,
right,
and it's great.
Awesome.
So look out for that, and
yes,
please, you guys follow me on Instagram, Desmond.child, because I personally. My husband not that happy about it, but like late into the night, I'm there like answering like kiss questions, and you know I'm like really involved, and you know I just love it because it's like I found 200,000 more new close friends.
Well, be careful because I told you I sat here and I'm like I could probably come up with about 2,000 questions to ask you, song by song by song by song.
Well, invite me back.
That sounds great. You know,
the rock and roll experience with Mike Brun.
I promise you I will, because I'd love to get into some of the stories, some more about some of the songs, because like I said, it is the jukebox of my life. Love it.
We're going to drill down into the dirt.
Love it.
Every song.
I'd love to do that. Thank you, Desmond, so much. I will look forward to that. And this was amazing. This is absolutely amazing. Okay. Thank you very much.
You, family, and all of my fans.
Yes. Thank you so much, Desmond. Be safe. Good luck with your son, and we'll talk again soon. Definitely.
Sons. They're twins.
Sons. That's right. That's right. There's two. And they're both going away? They're both going away to college now?
Yeah, they're in the same dorm and everything.
Awesome.
And watch our movie, too, The Story of Roman and Nero.
Absolutely. Will do.
And you'll find out more about me than you would ever want to know.
There you have it. I look forward to talking again soon, Desmond. Thank you so much. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Alrighty, there you have it. I'd like to thank Desmond for being very generous with his time and spending nearly an hour and a half with me talking all about his incredible career. I know I speak on behalf of many of the fans when I say we love hearing these stories, Desmond, and I thank you for sharing them with me. I also look forward to welcoming back Desmond again on a future episode. That'll be a lot of fun. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brun, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you next time.